The DT. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It's weird. I don't know why I have two accounts. They're both mine, but only one of them works on my computer. Yeah, I think the other one's my old account, but I don't know why it's not the same account since it's the same email address and everything like that. So I don't understand.
Yeah, computers. Actually, I was watching that you have your picture, your normal picture of your face, but when you called, then art appeared all of a sudden.
It's like, ah!
It was like a transformation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hopefully you can understand me, and hopefully I'll be able to understand you. If not, please tell me, because my main language is Spanish, so yes. I'm trying my best.
Oh, you're doing great. I totally understand you. Don't worry about it. Where are you from again? Remind me.
I'm from Argentina.
Argentina, okay. Awesome.
Yeah, South America.
Yeah, so I know I'm quite familiar with where Argentina is. Yes, one of my good friends growing up, he worked down there for the embassy for a few years.
Oh, I see. And you were drinking mate? Could it be?
Oh, am I drinking? Oh, it's just water.
Oh, I thought it was mate because of the straw.
Oh no, it's just
because it's mate is Argentine.
It's my Joker cup.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, I'm a big water drinker, so.
Oh, I see. So, well, actually, thank you for agreeing to this interview. I was a little worried because, I'm not a professional journalist or anything like that.
Right.
But I was wondering, I could easily do this by, writing. But I thought it would be interesting to see the man on the other side who kept me awake for 3 days. So, after watching Terrifier, so, it's fun. But actually, I wanted to start this thing with asking you about your voice actor path, because I'm a student of dramatic arts, so we have vocal education. So this article is going to be about that.
Cool.
My first question has to do with how did you decide to be a voice actor, and how did you get in the industry?
Oh, wow. I kind of decided that, like, it wasn't a definite decision, but I first got interested in it when I was a little kid. And it was, I discovered my first voice I could do was the voice of Goofy. In first grade during story time in my classroom, my teacher was reading us a Mickey Mouse book at the time, and this girl I had a crush on in the class slipped me a little note asking me if I would be her boyfriend, and I let out this gorge, and I was like, oh, and I was like, yeah, of course I said yes, I would love to, but that's when I discovered my first voice. I could do voices, and then the next year, Who Framed Roger Rabbit came out, and there was a whole behind the scenes special on TV about how they made the movie, and that's when they started talking about all the voice actors in it, and that's when I learned about the voices of all the Looney Tune characters. And I didn't realize there was one guy that did all of those voices, and I was like, that is so cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Stuff like that. Yeah, and so after that I started just mimicking. I discovered I had a knack for mimicking voices, so I do over 200 of them now. And then like later on, it's when the movie Miss Doubtfire came out, and the main character in that, Robin Williams' character, his job was as a voiceover actor, and he did voices for cartoons, and that's when I was like, oh, that looks like that would be a fun job to have. But I held off on that for years because I actually got a degree in teaching, elementary education, and I have a minor in history. And I had some life changes where my mom passed away while I was in college, so that kind of changed my trajectory. And that's when I kind of decided, I was like, you know what, I really enjoy entertaining people, and I want to be an entertainer instead of a teacher. So I decided to do that. And I first wanted to do Broadway, but I was like, yeah, I would also love to learn how to do voiceover work, because this is one of my knacks. I do so many impersonations and everything. It's like, might as well try to see if I can get voices in doing cartoons. So when I moved up to New York, I took some classes with some prominent voiceover actors here and cut a demo. And then I was able to start auditioning for different voiceover jobs, and it took a few times. And there was this this one casting director, I went in for a video game, and he had brought me in for that video game because he had seen a video that I had done where I did 110 impersonations in 9 minutes back to back.
Yeah, I
And
saw it
yes, he saw
on
that
YouTube.
too. And he's like,
Yeah.
you're really great. So he brought me in for this audition for, I think it was a Top Gun video game. And I didn't get that job, but he's like, I think he and the other people in the company were like, he's really good. Let's bring him in for, I think he's better for like fantasy. And so they brought me in for this game called Two Worlds 2 for the DLC, the downloadable content for that game. And they cast me for several roles in that, and that's when it just started snowballing. After that, I started doing other jobs for different animated films and or TV shows. Sometimes just as animals, they would just bring me in. There's a television show called Super Wings here that's on. It's for little ones, toddlers, basically on a network. And anytime they needed animals for that, they're like, Dave, can you come in and do a dog? Or can you be a llama or a camel or an ostrich? And I'm like, yeah, we'll figure it out. So I'll just go in there, just go, and I get paid money.
Yeah, so you developed a really nice passion, for what you're telling me.
Mhm.
And is there someone that you had as an inspiration or someone you admired?
Oh yes, there are several. Because that's something I started doing when I first learned about this. Is like something I would really like to do. I made sure to look at the credits after every cartoon because I love cartoons. I still love cartoons. I watch them all the time. And I would watch the credits and learn who all those actors were. Like, of course, those Mel Blanc and Dawes Butler, who were the old voiceover actors. But you have the current ones like Billy West and Rob Paulson, Maurice LaMarche, and Tress MacNeille, all those great, John DiMaggio. Yeah, Joe DiMaggio. I always get those two confused in my head because an athlete, one's an actor. It's like, oh,
Oh, I'm
yeah,
not familiar with them, so.
yeah. He's the voice of Bender on Futurama. Yeah,
Oh, I see.
that's
Yeah, I know. I
yeah.
know who you're talking about.
He,
Yeah.
but that's when I started like John DiMaggio. Yeah, Joe DiMaggio is the one that married Marilyn Monroe. There we go.
But was it like you decided to take a step forward and besides voice, also put your body into work, like acting with your whole body?
Well, that's what I was doing first, actually. It was, acting with
Oh,
my whole body. I mean, I did a lot of children's theater. So those were great jobs there, was doing children's theater, because not only was I able to do some great characters where I could do some fun things with my voice, but I was able to do some fun things with my body as well, because kids love the physical comedy. And I grew up watching all the great physical comedy comedians from back in the day, like Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton,
mm.
the Marx Brothers, Mr. Bean, and so I learned from them. I would watch it. I had a whole a collection of Mr. Bean videos that my aunt gave me for Christmas when I was a teenager, and I would watch them over and over and over and over and over. And I would just like I like this style of comedy, and so I just learned from watching those, and then I would bring it to what I would do on the stage.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting for me because I heard you said that you were a fan of Mr. Bean, and I'm also a fan of Mr. Bean,
Oh,
so
see,
it's
that's the
really
great
amazing.
thing is like, you have characters like these silent characters like Mr. Bean, where they transcend, cultures because
Yeah,
you don't have to worry about language there. You just exactly it translates across the world in all languages, all cultures. You can identify with it, and that's what I love about physical comedy. You don't have to worry about words. You don't have to worry about language barriers.
so speaking of that, how did you live, going from a whole voice thing to art who doesn't speak? How did you live that? How did you work on that?
That was a challenge because that was one of my main things. Every time I would develop a character for a stage or whatever, that was one of my first things I would develop was the voice. Because once I found the voice, that would usually help dictate how my physical approach was to the characters as well. And I didn't have that with Art. He was completely silent. So, the good thing was I had, the original actor who had played him in All Hallows Eve, Mike Gianelli. And so I watched his performance, so I picked up what he did, but then I added my own to that. And so, and I took that as a challenge because I'd always wanted to play a character like Mr. Bean or something like that. And I kind of looked at Art as being like an evil version of Mr. Bean. He's that very mischievous type of character that just likes to
As soon as I saw Art, I was like, this reminds me of Mr. Bean, or this reminds me of Chaplin.
Yes.
It was like a combination of both.
Yes. Well, that's. I mean, I kind of look at Art as also like he's like the bastard child of Harpo Marx and Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So, but I was wondering, do you think Art puts a show for others or for himself?
Oh, definitely for himself. He's like the, how, that's why I look at how I approach him. It's like, clowns, real clowns, they want to entertain other people. They want to make other people laugh. Art does it for himself. He's very selfish in that way. He's not about this. He's not about amusing and entertaining other people. He's about it. This is all just to entertain himself. He finds this extremely amusing and funny. What he does.
Yeah, but I was asking this because this scene at the pizza shop where these ladies were eating, and Art came to them and gave them a ring. So I was like, oh my God, this is so cute. I sort of felt that Art was evil, but I let out go, oh my God, this is lovely. So I was wondering if at that moment he was trying to camouflage or cover his actual intentions, or was it also for himself?
A little bit of both, I would say, because that made it a little bit easier for him to approach them. It's like, I'm gonna kind of play around with them some, and maybe see if I can put them at ease. It brings his victims in. It's just like, yes, welcome to my world. Come in.
Like a spider web.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's like, okay, I got you now. I've got you.
Yeah, it's the same when this woman who was looking for the doll baby, the baby doll. Yeah, it's actually true because she was hugging you, and then she ended like that. So it was really evil.
Oh yeah, so that was his thing. He was trying to lure her in. He knew what would bring her into him. Yeah, he's very crafty. He's very crafty.
Yeah, you kind of think if you see it at first sight, you may think that Art is very evil and just that, but there's also a psychological world inside of him.
Oh yes.
In his nature. Yeah.
Oh yes.
So I was wondering, because you said Art likes to entertain or entertain himself, and then you said that you enjoyed entertaining kills. So I was wondering, besides the killing part, if there's something that you identify with Art.
Oh yeah, definitely not the killing part, because I don't kill people.
No. I had intuition.
Lock me up. No. But I would say it's just I like to pull pranks on people.
Oh, that's interesting.
I like to scare people as well. It's just I have a habit of doing that. I do that on set even. I like to just creep up behind my co-stars and scare the crap out of them. I would do that to our female lead in part 2 a lot, where because she has a huge fear of clowns too in real life. And so she would be talking to someone off set, and I would just quietly sneak up behind her and just stand there and do like the freeze that Art did in the first film. And so she would turn around, and I'll just be like right there in her face, and she's like, yeah.
That's so funny. So I actually heard that you were having trouble with some ladies on the street because you appeared with your costume and blood or something like that. I don't remember properly.
Yeah. That was it was like 2 o'clock in the morning in Trenton, New Jersey, which is a very dangerous part of Trenton. And these ladies were having a argument on the street, and I was bored because they were shooting a scene with Jenna at that time. And I was in full costume and makeup, got blood all over me. I'm just waiting to go on, and so I hear this argument. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna watch this argument, and so I'm over there watching it, and I forget how I looked. And then one of them looks up and sees me and screams, and I just wave at her. I'm like, hi. Because how I looked, and the other one sees me, goes running off, and like about 10, 15 minutes later, like the cops end up showing up, like in full on like riot gear and everything like that, and like they're ready to go to war, and I'm like, oh no. Oh no, I'm in so much trouble. They're
Well,
just
that speaks, within the acting part, that speaks actually very nice of you as an actor, because you were so focused in art that you didn't realize that you were having his custom.
yeah.
So yeah, it's actually funny. So I was wondering, as an actor, I think, or I believe that you may have had trouble, making a living out of acting. Was it hard? Because here it's actually very hard in Argentina.
Yes, it was. I mean, I for about 13 years, I was, just trying to break into the business here in New York City. And, I would do act. I mean, I was always doing acting jobs. Every year I had acting jobs, but I was also waiting tables on the side as a server. And
Hmm.
so I could actually make money. And then, there
Yeah.
were about 5 years where I would in the fall tour with the musical How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which was a lot of fun. So that was a good money maker right there for me. But most of the rest of the year, I was just doing odd acting jobs here or there and waiting tables until Terrifier came out, and that kind of changed everything for me.
Yeah, it's true. And how, speaking of that, how do you plan to stay active in the industry? Well, you have Terrifier 2 coming, but actually, do you have any other projects or works in mind?
I do. I actually have a small little cameo that I just filmed like 2 weeks ago. That's coming out. A movie that was shot exclusively over Zoom during COVID, and I'm in the very beginning of the movie that I get killed off, so I get to be a victim for once. But that's coming out. It's called The Dark Offerings. It's coming out on Amazon, I think, at the end of this month. And
Oh, I see.
then early next year, I'm going to be filming two different movies back to back. One of them, I just have a small cameo that they wrote in for me because it's a bunch of my friends. And they're like, hey, we want you to be part of this. And they did it's an independent film. And they're like, so I'm going to be playing a janitor in this movie called Time's Up, which had a very successful Indiegogo.
Oh, yeah, the movie with Daniel Maffei.
Yes, Damien and
Yeah.
Elsie Holt, who's another friend of ours. He was in You're Next, and Felissa Rose is involved with it. And so it's like they're all like, "Hey, Dave," because we do all these conventions together, so we all hang out and we're all friends. So they're like, "Hey, we want you to be a part of this." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I'm doing that, and then I'm going to be filming another movie. It's made with a lot of people from Terrifier. Called they're he was like some of them were in Terrifier 1. It was the exterminator that I cut the head off of, and the two cops. They had their own film company called Fuzz on the Lens Films. They did a movie called Abnormal Attraction that came out on Amazon and other platforms recently. But they've got another. They're hoping it's going to be another horror franchise called Stream, where they've got a lot of different people from the horror industry involved with that as well. So I'm going to be filming that also early next year.
So are you doing like a good character or an evil one?
In that one, I'm playing the bad guy as well.
Again, the bad
Yeah,
guy. So yeah. I'm afraid that you're going to take some attributes of them. But
yeah.
no, you're really a nice guy. So I
Oh yeah,
don't
that's
think.
the funny thing is like doing these conventions. I've got to know all these men and women that have played all these villains and all these horror movies for all these decades. And in real life, they're all just the nicest people, which is the
Yeah,
funniest
it's
thing.
true.
We all play horrible characters on screen, but we're all the biggest teddy bears in real life.
Well, I'm a big fan of The Strangers and, Man in the Mask, Damien Maffei. And yeah, when I saw him, I was like, oh my God, he's really cool. Like, you wouldn't expect that, but yeah, it's true what you say.
Oh
So,
yeah. Oh yeah. It's Damien's fun. He's got such a dry sense of humor, which is a lot of fun. So we have a lot of fun with it. So I'm excited about working with him.
yeah, it sounds fun.
Oh, it will
And
be.
speaking of, coming a little back to the voice actor path, like I was talking about, you mentioned that you were reading the credits. So I was wondering if, especially voice actors, if you think that they are underestimated, that they don't have the recognition they deserve.
Oh, I do. I really do. Especially with all the big animated films that come out, they don't use the actual voiceover actors. They're always using big name celebrities, and those are people that, they're not used to doing voiceover acting. I think voiceover acting versus on-screen acting is a totally different realm, because with voiceover acting, you have to be able to sell the character completely with your voice alone. And some people are just used to their physicality on screen being able to sell the character, and so they haven't, there's certain nuances that are, it's hard to describe, but it's just, you can tell experienced voiceover actors versus those that are doing it basically for the first time. They is and I don't think like people like Rob Paulson and Billy West and Maurice LaMarche and Phil Lamar and all those guys, I don't think they get the recognition they deserve. But I mean, so many of them are the voices of our childhood, but people don't know them. I'll name them, and people are like, "Who?" I'm like, "Oh, no, no, that's the voice of Yakko and Pinky, and that's the voice of the Brain." And they're like, "Oh, I love them." It's like when you name the characters they played, they're like, "Oh yes," but they don't have the name recognition as much as Brad Pitt does, which is
Yeah, it's true.
which is
Yeah,
a
because
shame.
yeah, because we remember like the visual part, like the Grinch.
Yeah.
I saw your audition. I think it was your audition, and you were doing these strange faces. So I was
Yes.
wondering if the voice was already created or if you actually created it.
For the Grinch.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I basically based it because I was the understudy for the Grinch in on my tour, and our Grinch was Stephen Carl, who played Robbie Rotten on a show called Lazy Town. He's an amazing physical actor. So I couldn't do his voice was naturally, he just had this naturally gravelly voice from all the smoking and everything he did. So I couldn't really, plus he's from Iceland, so he had a very interesting accent. So I couldn't really do what he did. So I based mine more off of the Boris Karloff. I kind of blended Boris Karloff's version and Jim Carrey's version into my version of the Grinch.
I see. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really interesting to see because when you work with your voice, actually people don't realize how doing a face changes the whole composition of it.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's how I am in like the voiceover booth. I'm not just sitting there just reading it, even though I'm not on camera. I'm in there making faces, flailing my arms around and everything, because I'm still trying to act as much as possible.
Yeah,
And
it's
it, and
true.
it adds so much more. And that's something they always encourage in classes. They're like, please use your body, even though people aren't going to be seeing you. Use your body, because sometimes even the animators like to see that, and they will animate off of that. They do that a lot with, I know, Robin Williams. They would just
Yeah.
film him. They're like, oh wow, how the way he moves and everything. I'm like, what's fun to do is I liked watching like behind the scenes videos of Mark Hamill voicing the Joker, and you would just see him just all of a sudden he just sitting there, sitting. Oh yeah, hi, Mark, and then he's like, yes, and you just totally get into the character. It's like, oh, see, that's what sells the character, and that's why I think voiceover actors are some of the most talented actors that are out there, because they have so many characters inside of them, and they're able to bring those characters to life with just their voice.
Yeah, it's so true what you're saying. So true. And speaking of the Joker, I think I remember you said in an interview that you were selected for art at the same time as the Joker.
Yes, the same week I was cast as both characters, two
And
killer
how did you?
clowns.
Yeah, it's like how did you leave that? How did you try to separate both worlds, even though they were two killer clowns? But
Oh
how did
yeah.
you?
Well, I did put some Joker into art, with of
Oh,
course not with a voice, but you just like some of his mannerisms, a little bit of the smile in there too, because had that big smile. So I tried to put a little bit of that smile into him, and just like his theatricality, because
yeah,
because Joker's very theatrical, and I think that's how art should be too in a lot of ways.
yeah. And how did you leave like the pause or interruption of your work when it comes to COVID
Oh,
and filming Terrifier 2?
that was a bummer. Luckily, we were almost finished with the film. I think I had maybe like just a few more, like two or three more scenes to film, which was good. I'm going to be filming my last scene in the next month, which is going to be a
Oh,
big kill scene. So, but the hardest stuff of the film we basically had finished before the virus. We literally finished the probably the biggest, hardest scene in the whole entire film the week before everything closed down, which was because that was the scene we were all dreading filming because there were so many elements, a lot of stunt work, a lot of extras involved in that, and we got it all finished and it went very smoothly. So, but still, it was a bummer because we weren't able to get the film out when we wanted to get the film out because we wanted to originally release this month, and that's not able to happen now because of this virus. It's just, we did some filming during the summer, but it was a little bit difficult because it was so hot and I would start sweating and my makeup would start just falling off my face. It's like, yeah, we have to wait for it to be cooler. So that's why, especially with this scene, I'm gonna be using a lot of physical exertion. So I definitely would that would make me sweat profusely in that makeup, and that would not be a good thing.
but so you were able to come back and do another scenes, or
Yes,
are you
yes.
still?
We've just had to be very, cautious on set. And I can't wear a mask, of course, because of my makeup, but everybody else is wearing masks. People are being tested, and we also have a minimal crew right now. We're only using the people that we absolutely have to have on set. So we're, trying to keep it small and consolidate it that way so it's as safe as possible, especially for our producer who had open heart surgery last year, and so he's at a high risk group, so we want to make sure he's okay.
Yeah, I think it's actually really difficult because here we are still in quarantine. So I was not able to come back to university, but we are taking virtual classes, but it's not the same,
Oh no, of course not.
It's not the same, especially with acting. I think you can understand that. So yeah, so I was wondering, you're very passionate about art, of course. So I was wondering, what's the if you had to pick one thing you are the most passionate about, what would it be?
Like as art or as an actor?
About art.
As well, I'm
Well, you
sorry.
can tell me both.
Oh, okay. I think it's easier as art. I think it would be just keeping the character interesting is what I think, because I don't want him to be bland by any ways. I don't want him to be cliche. And that's all. And you don't want to get too campy with it. So those are things that we have to really walk a fine line with. We want him to be we want him to stand out, but not be a character of himself as well. So yeah, but as an actor, I mean, I like what I'm most passionate about is just entertaining people, making people happy. I love to make people laugh. So it's like I would love to do more comedy, actually, because that's always been my passion.
Yeah, I see. From Jim Carrey to Mr. Bean, you were talking about. So yeah.
Hmm.
Um, so my last question for tonight: are you interested in taking like another role in the industry, maybe director or something like that?
Oh no, I do not want to direct. I directed one show way back when I was in high school, and that was enough stress for my life. I'm
Oh,
much better. I hate having to worry about everybody else. I can't stand that. That's just I think directors are special people. That's just not something that's just too stressful for me. No, no, thank you. No, thank you. It's just like
but
I'd rather have someone's like, okay, you do this. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I see. But you don't have that stress because, especially if you work on a stage, sometimes before you go on stage, you have this question in your head, like, why am I doing this? But then
Right.
everything becomes, you know.
That all goes away as soon as I step on stage. All the nerves and everything. It just I just become the character and I have fun with it. So that's what I love. I love being in front of an audience.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, it's really nice. It's a feeling. For me personally, it's a feeling that I can't describe it, but it kind of feels you. It
Yes.
feeds your soul.
It really
So
does. It's something that unless you've done it yourself, you don't understand. It's because there's no other career out there like that. It's like being a performer. And I'm equating myself not just with actors, but performers in general, dancers and musicians and all that. There's something special about sharing your talent with a big group of people and hearing the feedback, hearing how much they're enjoying it. There's something very satisfying that you don't get that from any other type of job out there. You don't get that from, doing taxes for someone. You don't get that kind of fulfillment. You kind of get a little bit of that fulfillment out of teaching, but in a different way. Because you're inspiring young lives and minds. But it's just like being on stage in front of a group of people and hearing them laugh is just something very, very special.
yeah, it's true. It's true. It really touches me because I can feel your words. Like it's the same thing that happens to me. So yeah.
I'll share a story that happened one time when we were doing the Grinch. We were doing it was when we were in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we didn't even know about this until afterwards. Where the husband sent us. Oh, there was a loud car. But we got a letter from someone that had come to our show in Cincinnati, and he was like, "I just want to share this story with you. My wife just passed away from cancer, and we went to go see the Grinch right before she passed away. And this whole, he said for about a year or so, she had been bedridden and not herself, and she was very depressed. And we went to the Grinch, and she said that she just came alive during that production. She just he said she became her old self again. She was smiling and laughing, and just she had all this new energy, and she passed away like 2 or 3 days afterwards. And he's like, thank you for one last wonderful date with my wife. Thank you for bringing her back just for at least one more night and bringing some kind of joy to her life.
Mm.
And it's like that's the best gift that anybody could have given us, was that you could bring that joy to her again,
Yeah,
just
it's
just
true.
for 2 hours. And I was like
I
that,
see.
and I was like, that's something powerful. You don't, like I said, you don't have those kind of impacts on people with other types of jobs like that. It's like, wow, we 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 really helped this couple, and like who knows how many other people, performers, that they've impacted people in that kind of way. And I think that was very powerful. I was like, wow, that was. I mean, we're all like when you
Yeah,
read that.
I think it
It's like,
really
oh
moves
my
me too. So
gosh,
I
just
can
like,
feel it.
oh my gosh. But that's why we do
I,
what we do.
yeah, I think it has to do with, when you're acting, you're actually creating a world and you're making people part of that world. So, um, it could be from terror or horror like art, but it actually could be joy, it could bring joy to people. And I think, creating a world in this actual world is something very, very powerful.
Yeah.
So, um, I was remembering that when I saw Terrifier, I was like, okay, this movie is not going to affect me. This guy created his world, but I'm not affected by it. But then at night,
Right.
I was laying in my bed and I was like, okay, like why is the wardrobe door
Yeah.
doing some noise? What is inside of it? So I was actually carrying some part of that world you created, and it was very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. So I was wondering if actually if you gave me permission to post this because I have a little blog on Tumblr
Mhm.
and some people there are actually fans of art. So I was wondering
Sure.
if I could post this
Of course. Sure.
there.
No problem.
Oh, thank you very
You're
much.
very welcome.
So for them, I'm going to ask you this: is there something you can tell us about Terrifier 2?
Yes, I will say that it's going to be bigger, bloodier, badassier, bolder than the first film. It's just everything's bigger, everything's better. It's going to be it's a fun movie. And it's not just about art. We're building up this new protagonist, Sienna, our female lead, to be the Batman to Art's Joker. And it's
Oh,
this I love her character. I think everybody's going to fall in love with her character. She's a lot like, that kind of strong, final girl like you see in like Ellen Ripley or Sarah Connor, that type of character where it's like, yeah, she's not a perfect person. She's struggled a lot in her life, but she comes back with a vengeance, and she's an awesome person. So it's not just Art's story, it's her story, and I think everybody's going to really enjoy it.
oh, that sounds really promising. So I want Terrifier 2 like for now.
Oh yes, I'm excited. I'm so
Yeah.
excited for everybody to see it.
So thank you. Thank you very much for taking your time to do this. I really appreciate it. I'm going to translate all of this for my articles.
Great.
So I'm kind of trying to see which questions are related to my signature, but
Yes.
actually I really wanted to post this on my blog because I think
Sure.
people are going to find it interesting.
Oh, I hope
So,
everybody enjoys it then.
thank you. Thank you
You're
a lot.
very
I
welcome.
hope you have a very, very good night.
You as well. Now go get some rest.
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of midnight
Yeah.
right now. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for changing the time with me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, hope you have a good night.
You as well. You take care.
Goodbye.
Bye.